All right, welcome back. This is Chad Broshears, the host of Growing Up in the Wilds of Suburbia, and I'm going to talk about safe spaces today. Now, this has become something that uh, initially, actually, it was back, I want to say it was late 90s, early turn of the century, where there was this idea that there was going to be like stress cards implemented into the military to help reduce overstressing the new entry candidates, people becoming service people, where they could hold up a stress card if the stress was too much. And the drill sergeant or whomever was responsible for that person's training, whether it was directly a drill sergeant or like a team captain or somebody like that, um, that they were supposed to back off. And it was actually kind of put in a satirical kind of light whenever we were first, I remember when it was brought up. And I remember thinking to myself, the last thing that I would want in a military type situation would be somebody who's going to hold up a stress card for the enemy. Like, oh, well, I feel like they're going to shoot me, so here's my stress card. And, instead of like really giving everything they had to, win the battle, that was kind of like how I kind of framed it myself, being, a much younger man. But now we've got these ideas of places called safe spaces. And for those that aren't familiar with it, a safe space is supposed to be a particular area that somebody can share their thoughts, their ideas, without having somebody else suppress or stop that idea based off of an aggressive ideology or presence, like suppressing it. Somebody stepping in and just making such a commotion that the other person just doesn't feel safe enough to share their ideas. Now, it sounds good in a theoretical model. We're just thinking in, the hypothesis of it. It sounds like it has some virtuous values. But what I've seen in, a lot of videos and what I've actually experienced in first person is when a safe space is created, or quote unquote safe space, what I see is it's safe for me, or safe for thee but not for ye. Or just safe for me but not for you. I'll share what I want to say, but if your ideologies or your position, your idea doesn't correlate with mine, then I'm gonna I'm gonna dismiss it. We're gonna tell you you can't share that here. Now, a lot of that's starting to translate into, like these echo chambers that some of the universities are developing, where a biology teacher can't get up and talk about the differences of sexes without being, booed or told that they can't speak, or, shut down some way, or some sort of protest to, unplug a microphone, or to, do something to block that person's ability to speak openly. That's classrooms and that nature. They're designed to have open discourse so that ideas can be challenged, but at the same time, the mediator of that space is the teacher, is the instructor. Their job, their professor, that's their job, is to mediate the space, but also direct learning. Some of these instructors have some fairly radical beliefs where they reduce their influence and allow kids to kind of do what they want in the scenario. Others, are confronted by children or these students that got used to being able to just share their mindset or their ideas, without being opposed or expecting, some sort of activist type of reaction if something comes up, like a hot topic of like gender specific things, or, the transgressions on transgenders, or, the other things that are kind of developing now. Safe space doesn't help in the sense that, okay, well, if it gives you the opportunity to share your ideas, in a previous video, I talked about echo chambers. I won't go far into that for this video because I've kind of covered it a bit. Just as a general overview, though, an echo chamber is a space where people agree with you predominantly, and the ideas exchanged are kind of treated more like sycophants. I just agree with you to agree with you so that we can move forward. Echo chambers can have that, but also they have, people that just share the same ideologies, the same ideas. They don't really disagree much in that group. Problem with that is that it it trains a person on how to deal with people that only agree with them, and it reduces their ability to deal with people that disagree with them. Safe spaces are in that same concept. What I've seen happen though is that they've gotten out of control. There's statements of microaggressions, macroaggressions, and splitting the hairs in those directions, to where it's, you have to be nice to me, or we're going to shut you down if you don't go with our direction, like with what we saw with out in Evergreen College. The professor there, his name will come to me in a minute. But what happened with him, claiming that he's a racist and that he's a misogynist, and basically all the standard fashionable statements that are currently floating around in the lexicon of the 20-somethings into the 30-somethings. It's pretty sad that there's a Jewish man that is he teaches biology, and he is treated as being a racist and a Nazi and a misogynist because he doesn't participate in the damn it, I forgot exactly what the actual the day of observation was, but it was about where it's students and faculty that are white were expected not to show up at school that day as a walkout, or to create awareness. And he came in to teach, and that he thought that it was, it's your right to, if you want to go to class or not, if it's your right if you want to go and teach or not. It's not up to a movement to say that you can or can't. It's not that kind of a union mentality, if you will. And then he was basically harassed so much that he had to resign from his position. I will get his name here just to make sure we got the right. I got his name. So Professor Weinstein. There's two brothers there. Now it's Brett Weinstein. Now he's actually an extremely intelligent man, and I mean he is self-identified as being kind of left center. He's a liberal, but he was attacked, absolutely attacked by the left in the political spectrum at the school because he was unwilling to participate in the day of observation. Because it's just his right to not participate. He basically ended up having to resign for it. So, but anyway, all right, moving forward, it's what safe spaces do though is it's a bullying thing. Like, you give people the opportunity to actually flex a power method or something like that, they can start bullying, and that is what I have seen happen, where students won't allow a professor to speak, attacking specific presenters, not allowing them to speak. It's because this is a safe space campus. You can't bring that here, and we're going to label your ideologies as being Nazi or racist or misogynist, or basically pick your term and attach it to that person, because that's intended to shut the person down, as I'd mentioned in a previous video about Trump cards. Not President Trump, not talking about Donald Trump, but I mean like the game Trump, where you trump somebody else with a specific card. So they do a power play and you use your Trump card to shut it down. That's the exact same concept here. So safe spaces do create echo chambers. And the problem with that is that it softens a person's ability to navigate into disagreements. The more the person loses the ability to navigate in a disagreement, the more likely they are to be dysfunctional in society. As also mentioned previously in another video, is that nature doesn't care about your theory or your hypothesis of the way that things need to work. It's still going to do what it does. Nature is a interestingly writing element to our existence. So we take an ideology that's too far away from the order of nature, it will put us back where we belong. But to how long does it take to get there, and what kind of casualties will be along the way, is not necessarily seen. So you can look at just human nature. We have how many different countries on the planet, and how many different mentalities in those countries, and what are the particular insights and belief systems that are there that have those individuals confronted by ours. Fastest way to warfare is tribalism. So things to consider. Try not to weaken yourself too much by constantly being in the same conversation that people are agreeing with you in. Get into other conversations where people don't necessarily agree all the time. The more you actually have a practice of understanding another person's position, the better you will be equipped to deal in the adult world that requires that you exist as soon as you enter into that adult world. Some people are afraid to enter into it, and they live in their, mother's basement their entire life, practically. It's kind of hyperbolizing it a little bit, but at the same time, it's, it's still there. It's still out there in the world, So if we want to be able to become more adapted to our surroundings and be more functional, we're really going to want to step out of that, I need to feel comfortable in order to feel like I'm in the right place mentality. Businesses won't wait for you. There will come a time whenever companies decide to stop catering to, these people's, outrage, because there's a lot of that goes on as well. Outrage will come from not feeling like you have your way. And that's typically coming from more of that, the right way things should go concepts, which can go into the entitlement of an individual's idea of privilege for themselves. And everybody has their own set of privileges based off the way they see the world or what they think they have as a privilege. So, and then other people will brand others with privileges. So, but that all comes out of not being in communication with those people to find out what their plight is, what they're going through. You're not going to force somebody to care for another person, but you can inspire them to care for another person. So when you sit in these safe spaces and you're theorizing the way the world should work, which is really in science, it's more hypothesizing. You're creating a thesis, ideas on what people are going to think or how they're going to think for the long term, without actually engaging with those people in a way that you're curious to understand them. I'll give you two terms and then we'll go ahead and end the video for today. One term is straw manning and the other term is steel manning. For those that do understand the differences in those terms, fantastic. And this is going to be a refresher for you. But so a straw man is where you characterize the other person's position. They don't need to actually share that position. They just need to have enough of what you're creating about that person's position by how you're talking about what they believe. It has to be just close enough to match that person, not to match, to be similar enough to that person's belief that other people wouldn't think that it's stretching. So they'd be like, okay, well, the difference between, these different religious sects, if you're going to straw man them, you can say, well, all religions think this way, so therefore your religion thinks this way. And the straw man aspect of it would be where you're picking things that don't belong to your belief system, or that you're picking things that don't belong to that other person's belief system, so that person is now defending something they don't believe. That's a straw man argument. It's not their agreement. It's just what you're trying to depict their agreement to be. Now, steel manning, I got this from both Sam Harris and from Jordan Peterson. I apologize, Jordan. So from Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris's conversations, where they steelmanned each other's positions. What a steelman is where you confirm that what you're saying is true before you produce an argument towards or against it. So it's to say, well, with this, I know other religions believe this way, but from what I understand about yours, your current belief is that you feel that this is X, Y, and Z. And the other person says, that's actually, yes, that's my belief. That is absolutely accurate. That would be steel manning a person's position. So what I find that predominantly comes out of safe spaces in arguments is more of a straw man technique, if you even get an argument out of it. Usually it is forced to silence, which forced to silence could be what they say, if they cover video cameras with objects so that it can't record, unplugging sound systems, making a disturbance, standing up and, making an activist statement that stops the persons from communicating. Those are all, protester activist type of behaviors, but those come from those safe space conversations. The thing is that it's highly, highly hypocritical. Now, it's safe for me, but not for ye. It's to just be careful with these things, because if you catch yourself caught up into it, it feels good because you're connected with other people that have the same conversation. If they're in a victim stance, then, it still feels good to be in a victim stance because you still have like-minded people around you that agree, and your rapport experience is high. I agree with you. You agree with me. And we're proving that the world is wrong in these ways because look how they're treating us. So just things to consider. Again, there's always something to contribute, add to, take away, acknowledge. I did like this video, or I'm taking this from the video. There's a lot of ways of going about this, but ultimately at the end of the day, it's how do you choose to develop yourself? Is somebody else developing you, or are you doing it for yourself? I personally prefer to be developed. I prefer to have my control over my development. And I'll put my money where I want to be developed. Time, attention, my resources. So I would encourage you to do the same thing. If you disagree with me, fantastic. You can write your disagreements, your agreements, whatever it is, in the comment section. Hit the like button, please. It's always nice to at least get a little bit more acknowledgement out there, and span the conversation a bit more so that we can all grow together. My goal is that we all do. With that, hit the subscribe, share the video. Tell a friend about it, send it to them, whatever. So again, it's Chad Broshears, and I am the host of Growing Up in the Wilds of Suburbia. Thank you for your time and attention. And until next time, you guys stay classy.